a lot of people, this whole Sanamahism angle is also a bit weird, because how can a community who has become Gaudiya Vaishnavas, who have a Brahmin, okay, who have OBC, who have SC, how can they reverse Sanskritize themselves? This is also weird. No, this has never happened anywhere in Indian subcontinent. Reverse Sanskritization. No. So this is also weird. This also looks like strategy, but yet somehow, people are not able to understand that the RSS sees even the Santal community, even Draupadi Murmu, as a Hindu, even though they have their own religion, the Sarna religion, the Santal have their own religion, but still they see themselves as Hindu. So, our people also sometimes are not able to catch, like the RSS is creating a new form of Hindutva, and this is the new form of Hindutva, Sanamahism fits. There are many people within the RSS who eat beef. It doesn't matter. Yeah, Savarkar himself has said that this not eating beef is a weakness. So a lot of times mainland people, even your community, middle class people, when they are commenting, they are not able to understand that things are moving quite fast, and you have to move it along with them. So, anyways, let's discuss other things that very gruesome activity has happened. 5 people from the Kuki-Zo community were abducted. They were going to a marriage party, and their car somehow diverted and entered into Imphal area. And we have seen a video where one guy was lynched, and that video has gone viral where he was he's running across the streets, and the Maida Pipes are doing that clinging sound. So how do you see it? How does the global Kuki-Zo community see this kind of violence? Just visible violence, abduction from from the captivity of police.
See, thank you for framing the question in that sense, Sheikh. And
Welcome viewers. Today we have with us Lien Gangte. Lien Gangte is the president of NAMTA. NAMTA is North American Manipur Tribal Association. He heads the Canada section. Lien Gangte is a tribal rights activist, and he is part of the Kuki-Zo community in Manipur, and he is quite a controversial one as per our news media and the Meitei society. Guys, please like, share, and subscribe to DYNT. DYNT means Democratize Your Nation Today. Our tagline: Awaken One Human at a Time. So, Lien Gangte, welcome, Lien Gangte.
so much for having me. It's wonderful to be on your channel, and thanks for inviting me to speak.
Yeah, so we all know what Lien Gangte is about. Okay, Lien Gangte is quite a famous figure right now because of a speech he gave in a Gurdwara, which has nothing to do with Khalistan yet. Lien Gangte, how does it feel to be called a Khalistani by a community that has been waging war against India? And it is, documented a war against India for, more than 50 years. How does it feel to be called Khalistani by a separatist community? That too, who are waging war against India, and just because you are from the Kuki-Zo community.
Yeah, Sheikh. I think first of all, I think it's sort of it's a new phenomenon, at least as far as Manipur is concerned, and my my experience, my memory of being born in Manipur and growing up there, because this sort of almost like a paranoid labeling. I've maybe I was naive, but it's kind of a very, to me it's a very new thing, because okay, to begin with, let me just say this: when they call me Khalistani in attempts to demonize me, to me what they're doing is they're demonizing Sikhs. So this is not really about me. And I know Sikhs are part of the marginalized and like the brutalized communities, right? So they've been extremely generous and extremely um, inclusive, and they have been very, very supportive of other marginalized communities. And it's kind of a um, I don't think as a member of a community that has been marginalized and that has been on the receiving end of this violence. I mean, I don't think I can um, I can be bothered by such um, slanders and such kind of demonization process. And as for me, I will not be cowed by vilifications as such. I stand with the Sikh community, and I will continue standing with the Sikh community as they have stood by us. So if anything, I think it just reinforces the fact that you have to stand by what your beliefs are, and if you've approached something correctly, just because somebody throws something at you and tries to tarnish the image and kind of tries to corner you into a corner, that I cannot let that happen. I stand with the Sikh community, and I don't believe um, anybody can say anything to change that.
Okay, this is a very weird question because I know what the answer would be. Still, I would ask as to like, মানে, do you condemn the killing of SDPO Anand Kumar?
Yeah, I mean, when anybody is killed,
Hmm.
I think I I don't know how separated you have to be with your humanity to feel like that is like to be gleeful about, even if it is in this particular case what you're saying, from a community that you're supposedly in conflict with. So obviously when somebody gets killed, it's a very sad episode. And even with the two young people, I'm trying to remember, was it Lintuangambi Hijam and
Hmm.
Amanjit
Hmm.
Singh? Even when their like deaths were
Abducted.
circling, yeah, I mean, I express my sorrow when heinous things like that happen. So that to me is not even a question um,
Hmm.
that that needs to be raised in that sense. And I think we can kind of mourn the loss of a human life, and maybe I'll just leave it at that. Because I don't want to also insert justifications about, okay, maybe because I honestly I didn't know Mr. Anand Kumar, like
Hmm.
I didn't know him. But I mean, if I didn't know much about him, like I would think of him as another human being who probably had his own family, who had loved ones, people who cared about him and he cared about. And until unless I'm proven wrong, that's my assumption. That's the premise that I work from. So I mean, yes, obviously.
Yeah. So like, but I have a different point of view. Because
Sure.
Lian Gangte has a different point of view. I have a different point of view that this Anand Kumar was also co-accused in a rape case of minor.
Okay, see that
And
yeah. So, sorry to
yeah,
interrupt, but
this
see
is
that
not a question to you.
those are details that I'm not aware of.
Yeah. This is not a question to you, Lian.
Sure,
This is not a question. This is basically I am just trying to make the viewers understand that
sure.
this guy had some problematic background also,
I
and it is very difficult to understand why such a person gets ex gratia of almost 50 lakh rupees from the central government, but other issues like monetary help for the Kuki-Zo community who are right now internally displaced people. Also, the Meitei community who are internally displaced people. For them also, that kind of help is not being seen. Maybe in future, Biren Singh has said that they are going to give, I think, 5,000 rupees to the farmers and this and that. Let's see if it reaches the cookies, because for now I don't think anything has reached the cookies except the 500 rupees that they had given a long time back. Anyways, moving the conversation forward, let's talk on Moreh. Now, why is it a battlefield, Lian? Like, what is the significance of Moreh?
Yeah, I think, and if I may just quickly add to the previous point, Sheikh.
Hmm.
Far from giving anything that's owed to the Kuki-Zo community, like I saw there were reports about tribal funds getting diverted for some
Hmm.
other like non-tribal communities anyway. So I would not be holding my breath in terms of receiving anything from the current state government. So I just wanted to add that to the previous.
Yeah. Thank you for
Yeah,
adding that. Yeah, that
yeah,
scam already has been happening for a long time,
yeah, yeah.
and
Unfortunately,
we know that thing, but we will address it in a different way. Maybe not in this discussion, in some
sure,
other discussion with some other problematic, because these scams happen for a long time. There's a cycle to it, and
absolutely.
maybe going back there would have been something which we also need to discuss and need to do research on that. We'll discuss that in some way. So coming to my question,
Yes,
why Moreh is a very cosmopolitan area, okay, very cultural diverse area.
yes.
Lots of
For
mainland
Manipur, yes,
Indians are there, Burmese refugees are there, who are Indian descent. Then cookies are there. Yet cookies do not control the business in Moreh. Yet, so much of firepower being exerted by the state government to capture Moreh. Why so?
see, I think in a lot of ways, I think you call it either speculation, or you can also just call it like logical deductions, right? So Moreh, like um, what you already mentioned, it's a very important trading town right on the Indo-Myanmar border. So it's economically a very, very important um, uh, trading post. So naturally, I think any community or any government will always want to have control over that. So in those terms, I think it's kind of fairly obvious in a lot of ways to see why they would want to like fully control Moreh, because even though, like you said, it's a very cosmopolitan town, the majority of the demographics happen to be Kuki-Zos, and so as a majority community, even though they don't really control the trade in that sense, but when things get heated, they can have a lot of influence um, as far as Moreh is concerned. So it kind of makes sense that they would want to attack and take control over the town. But and before we go too much into that, I just wanted to also kind of say, from what little I know about Moreh, I mean, even the naming of the town itself and it being a cosmopolitan town, I think a lot of that, I wouldn't say, my people, the Kuki-Zos, are, 100% responsible for it. But to a large extent, it's also the accommodating nature, the, you know, I don't know how else you'd put it, but the inclusiveness of the mindset. I think it's also kind of allowed Moreh to uh, be what it has been, and even the naming itself, if I'm not mistaken, it's a Abrahamic name that was given to it by by my people. So in that way, I think it's a very significant uh, uh, town. It's a very significant place uh, for Manipur, and also for specifically the Kuki-Zo people.
Okay. So, like we also see the Manipur police government gear wearing miscreants, who may or may not be actually part of the state apparatus, attacking Moreh. And people have been killed in Moreh. Like, what do you see this as? When state actors suddenly, getting the state legitimacy to do whatever they feel like. When some people from the cookies were saying that these people were chicken sellers. They're Meiteis, but they're chicken sellers. They had no history of, being part of any militant organization even. So, like, how do you see it?
So, Sheikh, um, to me, that is a continuation of the trend that was greatly intensified starting on May 3rd. Um, you know, and what I'll come back to kind of explaining what I mean by that, because like if you the opening question you asked about Moreh, I think I'd like to expand a little bit more on that, because the beauty of the cosmopolitan nature of a town like Moreh, um, it is it's a beautiful example of how a town or a city can be, because it's right on the border, and it's pretty much an open border, right, with the whole the freedom of movement regime being in place between India and Myanmar, and people being able to kind of cross the border freely with like minimal restrictions until things flared up, like maybe during COVID they had new restrictions that came in place and so on. But generally it's been kind of uh, an easy border to uh, go across and come back. And again, if you look at the historical development of this whole area, it shows how interconnected people are, and also it shows us how um, international boundaries came up in the lands, in the ancestral lands of the indigenous people in that area, including the Kuki-Zos, right? And especially, I just really think of Moreh and see a lot of parallels between what is there in Manipur, and also like where I live in Vancouver, British Columbia. And if you look at the border between the US and Canada in this part of the world, it's also separated by the 49th parallel, right?
Hmm.
And the indigenous people of this area are the Coast Salish people. And now they're part of two different nations, but historically they're one people, right? There are Coast Salish people in Washington State and Oregon, the same Coast Salish people in the province of British Columbia in Canada. And there's this border that came up, years, or like generation after, like, I mean, how many generations later, right? But then it was also like a beautiful example of what a community, even though it's been separated by an international boundary, what it could be like, right? Which now I feel has been under attack and is under siege, and it's yet another example of this year, how all the beautiful nuggets that made Manipur unique has been completely shattered, and it's being dismantled. um, and and going back to the question of um, people getting dressed in the garb of the security personnel. And I think there's also, objections raised even in calling them miscreants or mobs, because most Kuki-Zos will very clearly say these are not miscreants or mobs. These are like trained militants. These are either ex-militants or like members of the Arambai Tengol or Meitei Lipun or whatever else, And I mean,
Hmm.
I'm not going to claim to be the expert on that, but
Hmm.
this is also, in like I was saying earlier, this is a continuation of what we've seen since the 3rd of May, because, or it's more of an escalation, right? So, on the 3rd of May, you saw like rioting, crazy mobs going and destroying tribal neighborhoods, Kuki-Zo
Hmm.
neighborhoods all over the Imphal Valley. But you also have video recordings of the state police kind of being the vanguard and kind of leading these people into different neighborhoods. And specifically, I'm talking about the video clip that showed Manipur police leading the mobs into Mukhbang, for example, in Imphal. So now it's like a slow progression from, um, you know, just them leading and like, not responding in the way police are expected to, and slowly they're kind of okay. There's the arms that were looted, like 5-6 thousand, so many like
Yeah, 6,000.
electronics. Yeah, so it's kind of
Hmm.
a continuation of that. So now,
Hmm.
now they're, I mean, now they're
So-
fully, like they're
Yeah,
giving them their weapons, they're giving them their clothing, they're like everything.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
to me, it's more of a ramped up escalation of what we've seen in the past, and sadly, it is not that surprising or that new anymore. Um, it's not surprising,
Agree.
but it's still shocking, I should say.
Yeah, it might be shocking for you, but since I am a student of sociology and I am a political person as well, it is India is moving towards an ethnic democracy. Okay, it has become like an Israel Hindi in the Hindustan. Similarly, in Assam, we have Assamese. We are going towards the Assamese Hindu in Assam. Then in Manipur can be said is moving towards a Meitei Israel. Okay, it's a Israel only for the Meiteis. Nagas haven't been touched for now, but then there are settings being made to make sure that Nagas somehow get also involved. This recent case has happened where two Arambai Bengal teenagers were maybe abducted or whatever, but their mobile phones were found to be in Senapati, and the Nagas had to come up with a press release that no Meitei or Kuki should try to do something. But thing is, why would Kukis do? There also Nagas are kind of in a they're trying to play in a safe zone. Anyways, they will understand somehow. But Lian, like this attitude that we are seeing now, there has been historical data also, where the cookies have been called, Minai or how to. Okay, so now how as you growing up or your parents growing up, the first middle class or the second generation and middle class, how did you guys adjusted with that kind of racism or casteism in Imphal?
See, um, no, I think that's a very good question. I think part of being in the white collar middle class of your society, and part of being in the privileged class of your society, uh, the benefit of being in that group is you get to ignore such things. And the older I get, and the the more I see what life is about, it's like it's not really about like what my personal experience was like. Because I mean, since I left Manipur, and seeing the world in North America, I think you also experience the discrimination and the racism in different ways, right?
Hmm.
And in some ways, then you like when you ask me questions like that, it was something you could ignore. But that's also because of my relative privilege, and especially my dad being an IPS officer and kind of being shielded from a lot of that, like like yeah, people said really mean, nasty things in school, or like use it as a bullying tactic, and things like that, right? But I think at some level, um, I mean, I guess built on the foundations of the constitutional protection, um, credit going to Baba Sahib Ambedkar, and all those constitutionally protected rights. I think they helped form the defense for um, for for my sense of belonging there. You know, so and it was like one of those things where you know you knew you were not going to be accepted as one of them, but at the same time, like there were constitutional provisions, like whatever the reservation systems and different things for people who needed that kind of had a little bit of that safeguard, right? But
Mm,
I think the more pertinent question is for the other like the people in my community from my tribal group who don't have that privilege, and who
mm,
are maybe, let's say, the daily wage earners, or people who are struggling hand to mouth on a daily basis, on a monthly basis. Like it's a very very different experience from their perspective, right? Because like being called how could mean the difference between you not getting a job versus getting a job, you know? So I think I don't know if that answers, like, or if I'm getting to if I'm answering the question that you had in mind. So I think from my perspective, I was shielded, but I think to a certain extent, I should say, because some of it was just unescapable, unescapable, and yeah, and but the crazy thing is, um, you think that was probably the worst, and as the years go by and as we develop and we supposedly get more civilized, that things like that would be a thing that's kind of buried in history. But never would I have imagined that in 2023 it would
mm.
resurface and set us back, I don't know, a century, in terms of mindset, you know. So it is. I feel like now looking back, I mean, um, it was not a very good sign to begin with. I should say,
Yeah, no, I would see it in different ways because see, we have also undergone this kind of thing. Like wherever like in Gujarat also, where when the minorities become middle class, when they are trying to enter into middle class jobs or trying to enter into administration, that is exactly when in urban India such things happen. Okay, if we understand riots, if we understand genocide program, whatever, nothing actually happens in the villages. Very rarely something may happen in the villages. Most of it, whatever happens in the villages, is mostly Dalit oriented. But
correct.
Dalit oriented are Adivasi oriented. Not all Adivasis are same. That also viewers need to know. Santhal community is very different from a Kuki-Zo community. Kuki-Zo community are more forward since they have a good understanding of English and they have English education, so they are a bit more forward. So they are, they are seen as much more problematic than the Santhal. Okay, so these things are there, and I can see it in a very same way. Like in Kolkata, like in 1946, Calcutta riots, Kolkata. what happened was, it was ethnically cleansed of Bengali Muslims from 1946 to 1964. There's hardly any Bengali Muslims in Kolkata. Similarly, there is in Gujarat, we say the same thing. Like, ghetto kind of Muslim ecosystem has come up where BMWs are coming out of, ghettos. So
Yeah.
that kind of thing might happen in Manipur also, like, from Kangpokpi or Churachandpur or Lamka, some
Yeah.
limousine might come out. So these are the kind of things, and I will not. I'm going to oppress you, okay, by asking you very uh,
See,
Marxist
Sheikh,
type
if I
question.
may add, so if you
Mm,
look at like a huge majority of Imphal city,
mm,
I think it kind of jogged my memory of the lay of the city.
mm,
So um, it's not that dissimilar even before the troubles started on May 3rd this year. Because if you look at most of the Kuki-Zo neighborhoods in Imphal city,
mm.
they're in their own little
Ghetto.
neighborhoods. Yeah.
Yeah.
So whether it's like Haukipbang or whether it's like New Lambulan area or
Mm,
whether it's Kongsai Vang, Paitevang, so it'll be
mm,
like these neighborhoods. So in fact, that's why like my family was one of the few that were just embedded right in the middle of a Meitei neighborhood. You know,
mm.
I mean, my family was one of the few, if not the only, Kuki family that lived right in the middle of like a Meitei neighborhood, you know, and it was in the palace compound,
Mm,
and our home property was gifted to my mother by Maharaja Okendrajit Singh himself. When he was alive, the old king, who was the father of the current Sanajaba. I'm sure you're familiar with that name.
yeah.
Um, so I think that is the history of how the city was organized. How the lay of the city was. What I was trying to say. So even before this whole thing flared up so badly, I think if you
Mm,
look at the way the city was structured, it was not like a heterogeneous kind of mix
mm,
of all the different communities. And even if you
mm,
look at the Nagas, for example, there might be a few exceptions here and there, but for the most part, they'll also kind of live in different collectives. Like in different Naga neighborhoods, and everybody will have their own little neighborhoods
mm.
embedded within like the majority Meitei community. So I think, yeah, that's very true what you're saying. So it's so the cracks, the fault lines were always there. When you look back
Yeah,
now,
yeah,
I guess
yeah.
it's very obvious. Yeah.
Yeah, liberalism is a kind of a weird, setting where, people who are in ghetto, people who are communalistic can somehow come together, using capitalism as a base, and try to mingle with each other, try to show that we are all secular, by eating someone's food or being participating in someone's religion. Okay, that kind of there. So I have another question to you, like in the villages. What is the situation in the villages? Are the villages also like like the cities? Like, or are the villages more culturally distinct?
No, it's definitely, I think, in terms of uh, different degrees of being cosmopolitan. I
Hmm.
would even make an argument that the Kuki areas are
Hmm.
or have been like I mean
More
before,
diverse.
yeah, more diverse.
So
So
that can be seen in Moreh. That can be seen in Moreh.
yeah, exactly. Whether you look at Moreh or you look at Lamka, you look at Kangpokpi, Kangui,
Hmm.
whatever you want to call it, like it's I think I don't think it's too much to say that the Kuki-Zo people were more accepting and more accommodating of
Hmm.
different communities living together, in that sense, and
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, there's definitely dominance of one community over the other, depending on
Hmm.
what what part of the state you're talking about, you know.
Hmm. Also, Lian, like this angle has not been explored that much,
Hmm.
but ultimately, the religious places of the cookies that have been destroyed, these are churches. And if only it was a tribal, ethnic tribal problem, if only the tribal aspect of the Kuki-Zo is what the Meiteis had a problem with. Do you think the Christian centers of religious practice, they should have been left behind? But at the same time, we are not seeing that. We are seeing churches being attacked also. So the Christian churches, mainly the Kuki churches, have been attacked. Some Meitei churches have also been attacked. So, like, why is the Kuki-Zo community as well as the Christians, Christians including Naga Christians, Meitei Christians, Kuki-Zo Christians, why are they not speaking on this narrative that Christianity is also under attack?
I mean, to be quite blunt,
Hmm.
I think the core issue, I think, is also um, what maybe a lot of people are hesitant to touch, and and by saying that, what I mean is the current dispensation, the ruling regime in India, as we speak, is BJP, which
Hmm.
is very obviously the political arm of the RSS, like,
Hmm.
and the Hindutva agenda that they have. It is kind of very plain for everybody to see, right? And so there's, on one hand, um, okay, let me try to answer it in this way.
Hmm.
It's the same. It's kind of like the tension that arose. um, I mean, whether you have concrete proof of it or not is a different matter, but there's undeniably this tense climate that supersedes everything in India.
Hmm.
Like, if you were to honestly ask any reasonable, honest person, they'll tell you the climate in India is not the same that most of us who've been alive for more than a decade
Hmm.
can attest to. Right. So what happened in Manipur, you cannot look at it in isolation from what has happened in the broader country. Because Manipur, for all its beauty and all its uniqueness, is heavily reliant on the central government.
Hmm.
So our, like, economy was nowhere strong to self-sustain and generate the kind of revenue to run the state budget. So you wait on the purse strings in Delhi to like, sustain yourself, like, for your survival. So I think you cannot say that what is happening in Delhi has no effect in Manipur. And
Hmm.
so so that's why it's not a simple. It's like, I actually detest when somebody tries to make it such a simplistic argument one way or the other. Or if
Hmm.
somebody says, oh, it's just only a religious thing, it's only about Hindutva, I think
No, it
that's
is not.
incomplete,
Hmm.
right? So it's an incomplete analysis, and the honest truth is, it's like, intersection of a bunch of different issues that have
Hmm.
kind of brought this to this level of chaos and this level of crisis. So it's a mix of that underlying undertone, and you throw in all the like
Hmm.
ethnic conflict,
Yeah.
perspectives, and then you have, I mean, it was something that was ready to burn, and somebody just had to throw something in, and then, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I
everything
agree. I agree.
gets set
I
ablaze.
agree. Yeah, I agree. In fact, a lot of people, this whole Sanamahism angle is also a bit weird because how can a community who has become Gaudiya Vaishnavas, who have a Brahmin, okay, who have OBC, who have SC, how can they reverse Sanskritize themselves? This is also weird. No, this has never happened anywhere in Indian subcontinent. Reverse Sanskritization. No. So this is also weird. This also looks like strategy, but yet somehow, people are not able to understand that the RSS uh, sees even the Santal community, even Draupadi Murmu, as a Hindu, even though they have their own religion, the Sarna religion, the Santal have their own religion, but still they see themselves as Hindu. So, our people also sometimes are not able to catch, like the RSS is creating a new form of Hindutva, and this is a new form of Hindutva, Sanamahism fits. There are many people within the RSS who eat beef. It doesn't matter. Savarkar himself has said that this not eating beef is a weakness. So a lot of times mainland people, even your community, middle class people, when they are commenting, they are not able to understand that things are moving quite fast, and you have to move it along with them. So, anyways, let's discuss other things that are very gruesome activity has happened. Five people from the Kuki-Zo community were abducted. They were going to a marriage party, and their car somehow diverted and entered into Imphal area. And we have seen a video where one guy, who was lynched, and that video has gone viral where he was, he's running across the streets, and the Maida Paibis are, doing that clinging sound. So how do you see it? How does the global Kuki-Zo community sees this kind of violence? Just visible violence, abduction from from the captivity of police.
See, I mean, thank you for framing the question in that sense, Sheikh. And I think that is what kind of shakes one to their core, because when you think about something like that, you think about a very like artificially created sadistic movie, you know, like, and you don't think that can actually happen in real life with people who were your neighbors, and you know, in a lot of families, including my own, like it related to them by blood, you know. And I mean, I'm still trying to wrap my head around how this level of hatred and sadism can enter society, you know, like what kind of radicalization would have been necessary to dehumanize people to such level, you know. And um, not to veer off too far from the question that you've raised, I think, but if you look at a lot of the even social media interactions, you know, um, I mean, even in my own personal experience, I've been called all kinds of different derogatory animal names,
Hmm.
including, let's say, cockroach, right?
Hmm.
So, and to me, like that has a very specific ring to it because, you know, the Rwandan genocide immediately comes to mind, you know, because the, you know, the different like radio programs, if you've you know, even seen the movie
Hmm.
Hotel Rwanda, and all
Hmm.
this about the genocide, like this was kind of the language that was used to dehumanize the Tutsis before the genocide took place, right? And it's that is what kind of enables
Hmm.
the common people who may or may not have that full grasp of what's actually happening to their society to be able to indulge in behaviors like that, you know. And that's why in a lot of ways people who are just um, you know, obnoxiously vulgar and vile in that sense, you know, it's crap. It's hard to take. But like what the bigger issue I have is with the people who have laid the foundation, the intellectual framework
mm,
for this kind of stuff to be acceptable, you know?
exactly. Mm,
And so and that's why I think, you know, it has deteriorated to this level where
mm,
people, I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy. You know, like, why would you take pleasure in the suffering of another human being? Even if you think that person is your enemy, you know, like I just don't grasp the, you know, the pleasure that's derived from somebody else's suffering.
yeah, yeah. Sorry to cut you off, Lian,
No,
but
please.
I have not seen such kind of celebration even by Hindutvawadis. Okay, like the way the middle class, one middle class Meitei food blogger, he was doing a food show and
Yes.
celebrating the fact that cookies have died by doing a mukbang kind of a video. This is outrageous, and
It
I am
absolutely is.
yeah, this is coming out. I haven't seen like this can be compared to Israelis doing those TikTok videos to mock Palestinians.
Absolutely, absolutely. I do not understand like how far removed you have to be from your humanity to do that. You know, and it's I don't even know if there's, you know, beyond what we've already discussed, Sheikh. I don't really know what else is there. You know, how else do you express shock and um, disgust? You know, because if you go too far down that road, the only thing you can end up doing is retaliate in that same kind of way, which
Mm,
I'm not going to do because that's, you know, that's this is not worth losing my own humanity over.
mm,
You know, so it's just very very strange, and you know, this mindset. I don't know what it would take to flush this kind of mindset away from society.
mm,
And when I say that, I also want to be you know, at the expense of sounding too I don't know, nitpicky, but
mm.
I also want to kind of distinguish. I know for a fact that uh, you know, every person, every single individual in the Meitei community is not like that.
Mm.
The problem is the sane-minded people, the rational, logical thinking people are so quiet.
Yeah,
And even the few that have spoken up have been utterly silenced, right?
mm.
And like I'm sure you remember what
Yeah,
not that long
Bablu,
ago,
and
Bablu Tundun and
Brinda.
Brinda Thonajam, like what happened to
Mm,
them.
mm,
And like even like some commonsensical commentary from the more, you know, rational minds,
mm,
like if you silence everybody like that, where do you
mm.
think your society is going to go? Like
Yeah.
even if you manage to eradicate, let's say, you know, um, by some measure they manage to eradicate every single one of the Kuki-Zos. Like
Mm,
if you are going to have a feast because you eradicated a whole group of people, whatever you may think of them, like what kind of civilization, what kind of society do you think you are going to inherit? You know, I pity
mm.
such mindset.
Yeah, I think I don't think in that way. I think so basically they have a issue with you know the aspiration of the cookies. I think basically what they want is the cookies should remain as tribal as they are, and since they are tribal, and now they want to be tribal, scheduled tribe, and they want access to your lands, so that now the cookies people can be made workers in that land, so they have nothing to do. They would not do those soft jobs that are the byproduct of getting educated. They would rather see you people do those hard jobs, do work in the stone quarry, suffer from asbestos pollution or all those things. So that is the mindset that they have. So now coming to you, last two questions. That is number one, what do you think about Bimol Akoijam? I think if I'm pronouncing his name
Yeah, yeah,
properly,
yeah.
Bimol Akoijam. Bimol Akoijam does not come across as a fascist, but still is not able to talk about reform of the Meitei society. Is not able to criticize the extremists among the Meiteis. What is the issue with him?
Well, I wouldn't really claim to know what the issue with him is, because I think
Mm,
that's the kind of um, critique that I want to avoid. I'd rather like kind of criticize specific things that he has said.
mm,
Because I don't want to also prejudge his whole character and like who he is, and like
mm,
condemn the entirety of his person. But I think uh, when I in the earlier days of this conflict, I thought maybe he might be somebody that would have like a saner sense of understanding, right? Because um, I don't remember exactly what program it was on, but I remember like I listened to an interview of his where he was very strongly making this argument that our communities cannot be separated because we come from the same ethnic
mm,
stock, right? And of
mm,
course he's an intellectual. He's a professor at JNU, if I'm not mistaken. And like and I kind of in a way I was kind of like listening to what he had to say with interest. But then like what he has tweeted, or like what he has, I guess now with X, I guess you'd call posted, uh,
mm,
it has taken a very, very like biased, very, very hard pro Meitei only perspective. Where like one of his latest tweets that I am very critical of,
mm,
he has taken a stance that his perspective is going to be based on a united Manipur come what may. And I'm
true.
paraphrasing what he actually said, but
Mm,
essentially, he's made his conclusion, and it kind of almost makes me think of like extremely dogmatic people who don't consider the human cost of something, and it's kind of like saying come what may, like this is the priority you
yeah,
know and to me that's a very strange way of like looking at things. And like what I said in my response to his post was that you know like we have to also like consider the human cost of your
mm,
ideology,
mm,
of this, like your concept of a united Manipur
mm,
is costing lives, not only Kuki-Zo but
yeah,
Meitei lives
yeah,
as well. You
yeah,
know, and how are you trying to justify this, intellectualize this,
mm,
uh, and I think it just kind of um, makes me think of a quote by Slavoj Žižek, where
mm,
he says something about in our era. And again, I'm paraphrasing. Please forgive me.
mm,
I cannot
mm,
remember the
mm,
exact quote,
mm.
but something along the lines of, in our era, ethnic cleansing needs poetry to go with it. As
Yeah,
with
yeah, yeah, yeah.
so
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's almost like just because a certain community does not have that artistic capacity to write about their pain, that pain is not accepted. It is not a pain actually.
yeah.
So
So
yeah.
well, I would say both ways. From
Mm,
the persecuted minority, yes,
mm.
but also for the perpetrating majority, or the
Majority.
perpetrating group also needs this kind of um, intellectual, poetic way of
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They,
carrying
if
out
we
the
don't die,
atrocity.
yeah, yeah. If
Exactly,
we don't die, it's like if we don't die, how can they write about us? Okay,
exactly, exactly.
that point is there.
So,
But since you made that point, now
absolutely.
coming to the last question, if you want to say something, you can say.
No, no, I just wanted to agree and just,
Mm.
emphasize the point that everything that the Kuki-Zo community has been asking is strictly, within the confines and, under the
Yeah,
Indian Constitution.
yeah,
We're
yeah,
only asking for our constitutionally guaranteed rights.
yeah.
There's nothing outside it.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So coming to our last question, there are a lot of cookies of people outside. I am told in New York, maybe they can sway elections also in one or two areas. I'm told. Okay, I'm not that. What do you say, knowledgeable about that information, but this is a rumor that I heard. So why is international community not being able to put forward your point of view? Because the UN resolution has pointed you out, even the European Parliament has talked about you, but somehow uh, Narendra Modi is just not realistically into it. He has addressed the viral video, but he has addressed it as in a very secular term. He didn't address the Kuki-Zo aspect of it, and also only the Mizoram MP has somehow talked about you, but otherwise, even in the Indian Parliament, nobody is really talking for you. This is a very weird situation. Like 6 months on, we're almost going to 7 months. Why is the international community failing in your case, and why you guys internationally are also not able to, create that nuisance?
See, Sheikh, I think that is, I mean, it's a very good question, and it's something that I spend a lot of time thinking about. But
Mm-hmm.
coming to the like one nuance, like one small detail with the Mizoram MP, he tried to speak, but even his speech was cut in the monsoon session of Parliament, and like he was not even allowed to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the level, this is the quality of our great Indian democracy. So that is one thing. And as far as the UN and the international organizations go, I think um, I find it really heartwarming for the UN to issue any statement as far
Mm-hmm.
as the conflict in Manipur, and the violence against the Kuki Zo community, or even like even if they include the Meitei community, the suffering that they've endured. I think I welcome that. But I think as far as the UN goes, unfortunately, just the way the UN is structured, right? Like in my understanding, uh, it cannot function as an independent body in that sense. And
Mm-hmm.
what I mean is that it needs the member states to act. The member nations have to act, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the UN does not act unilaterally on its own, right? So for all its good points, that's one of the structural um, handicap that the UN as an organization has. So I think that's the biggest constraint that I would see. And then so when you accept that, then you get back to the more core of the issue, is that why are the member nations unwilling to speak up
Mm-hmm.
on this issue and like kind of ask questions, hard questions of India? And I mean, the biggest reason, everybody would agree is that the economic interest that, whether it's in terms of investment opportunities or like the business relations with India, I think that to me is like uh, a big factor in nations being unwilling to speak. And obviously, I don't know about the strength of our little community in New York, and having the power to sway elections
mm,
this way or that way.
mm,
But
mm,
I know the Indian diaspora is a very strong, like large body politic all around the world, right?
mm,
So we are uh, like when people think about the current regime, like
mm,
they always kind of conflate the BJP regime with being pro-India, right? So there's
mm,
also that big factor where, like, the influence of the Indian diaspora is much, much more powerful and strong
yeah.
versus our little, like, Kuki-Zo community in whatever say we have. Like, all we can do is to appeal to um, the conscience of right-thinking
Mm,
individuals, and make arguments on the basis of human rights violations and
mm,
atrocities that have been inflicted on our people, right? So,
yeah.
and I think the other, sorry, I'm just also just rambling on. Some of the other thoughts I had was also, I mean, India has the claims to being the world's largest democracy, and combine that with the China counterweight that the West
Mm,
is continually looking for. So I think all those things, if you put together, it just kind of makes it very, very difficult for the international community to uh, speak up, and kind of be more vocal about atrocities um, that we're seeing. I think, um, and that way, even what is happening in Palestine, or like what's happening in Gaza right now, and the inability of the world community to even,
act.
like, yeah, like call for a unified ceasefire. I mean,
Mm,
that is unfortunately the world of 2023 that we're all living through right now.
yeah. So, no, thank you, Lian, for being with us. And let's hope that you can carry out whatever you're doing. And maybe, going forward, the genocide that is happening against the cookies stops in Bharat. So, viewers, please like, share, and subscribe to DYNT, Democratize Your Nation Today. I just want to say one thing, that when your enemy has dehumanized itself and wants to dehumanize you, you cannot appeal to its human feelings. This is not to say that the Meiteis are enemies. This is to say to the Meiteis also that within the community also there are enemies, and the time has come for intellectuals of the Meiteis, as well as the good Meiteis like Bablu and Miss Brinda, to not humanize the problematic elements, the fascist elements within their community. Thanks for watching DYNT. Please like, share, and subscribe.